Welcome back to the Gun Collective Podcast. My name is Jon Patton. As always, we've got a great guest this week. Johnny B is with us. But before we get into it, I've got to pay for the lights and the studio and all of those sorts of things. Use our promo code TGC over at blackoutcoffee.com and get yourself a discount. Also, check out our Tenacity blend. That is our TGC signature blend. And if you don't like coffee, try some tea. Maybe try some hot cocoa. Don't be a fool. Support us, blackoutcoffee.com/TGC, and use our code TGC. Same code works at vertex.com. Get yourself an EDC bag, some organization for your firearms, your vehicle, or some apparel. Again, code TGC gets you at least 15% off at vertex.com. Johnny, it's been a minute. How are you, dude?
I'm great, dude. Like here's what I was driving over to the studio just now and thinking about how far we go back in doing these, and to new viewers, like this pairing right here has done a lot of stuff, a lot of good memories, and I'm glad we're doing this today. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm pumped. You are one of the people that I can count on to do what I call yes and it's a thing that I'm starting to gauge my friendships with. So for those that don't understand, can you, as the ultra qualified person here, can you explain what yes and is?
I can. I just muted my microphone. We'll see if you can hear. Can you hear the train?
Oh, I can hear the train. I don't care.
It's coming. Here's another one. He's got about two more. I'm in downtown Johnson City, home of the.
I'll tell you a quick story. A quick story about a train. So we were just in Washington State for the Rock Chuck Olympics. I stayed in a house with Stag Arms, Caldwell, and Canick. And our house was 3 feet from a train track. Not like a couple, like it's on the other side of the yard. It was 3 feet from the train. Like you could see it going by my window at night. 4 a.m. Blah, blah, just rolling right past the back of the house. I understand the train.
My studio is right on the train tracks, and I'm sure this is making a fantastic podcast about talking about audio issues that I have in 2 in the afternoon. The idea of yes and it's nothing that I came up with, but it's easiest to be seen in improv comedy when you're watching something like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Some guy will come in and go, "Hey, you're wearing a green shirt. What are you, Irish?" A yes and person would say, "Yes, I am Irish. And if you want the pot of gold, and they'll say something funny. So it's yes, and I'm going to add on to what you're going to say. Buttholes in this world, they are no comma but. I walked into a group of my friends the other day, and a bunch of them were sitting there, and I walked in. I was just being funny, and I said, "What up, buttholes?" Just saying, being, how guys greet each other. It was all men. It was all friends. And this one guy goes, "That's my least favorite word in the English language." And everybody went, wah, wah. So I think for anybody that's interested in stuff like, I don't know, being likable, learn the yes and. If people are being funny or people have ideas, this works really well in the boardroom. Somebody comes in and goes, "Hey, I think we should come up with an extra plastic Glock 19 like everybody else." If you're in that room, they may be excited about that idea. Yeah, okay, we can talk about that. And we may want to explore ideas that might be what's called original. So the yes and is just a little technique. You and I have talked about this for years. I love talking about yes and.
So I really appreciate the ability for somebody to jump in and just run with a topic. And you and I have done that around campfire, on stage. We've done it in so many different settings, and that's just the core of why I'm excited to just sit down and BS with you a little bit. So I want to understand, I don't think I've seen you in person for 6 months, something like that, right? It was Georgia, right? You were in Georgia? Was that?
Maryland, the Maryland trip in December.
Maryland, that's where it was. Okay, yeah. So that was beyond 6 months at this point.
Yeah.
So what the hell have you been doing?
I've been doing spicy freedom right here in this room. Every day I'm talking about things. Things have changed, and everybody, we're all in this, we should be in this ongoing evolution in our own lives. And I am morphing more and more into talking about culture and not just talking about the Second Amendment. I think the Second Amendment protects our culture, but we are in a cultural war right now. We are fighting for our grandchildren's freedom. And we will be, if we're not careful, we will be a technocracy, and it'll be exactly what we saw in during the COVID days, and it'll be nonsense. So I'm still here every day, but I'm moving more, talking every day a little more about culture and how the Second Amendment protects that culture. So I'm here doing my thing.
I know you started originally doing gun reviews and all that kind of stuff, and you've gotten really far away from that. Why? Like I know we, for context, Johnny and I have been buddies for a while, and I've sort of watched this transition, and I'm sure a lot of you have as well. This transition of what his channel is all about. Where's that come from, Johnny? What's that all about?
I think it's just me. I have to do things that interest me, and a lot of stuff does not interest me. And you know, like your own gun collection is really odd, and you only pursue guns that get your attention.
That's
and
true.
There's a limited number of things that get my attention, and there's only so many holsters I can review. I'm still doing some reviews for a couple different companies.
Okay.
But I enjoy talking and watching, and it's one of the things that I say. I have a show over on the Warrior Poet Network, and one of the things I say on there is I'm out there in the internet so you don't have to be. And I love internet time, and I love digging through the sewers of the social media world and then bringing it to people that, I don't know, because they're conservatives, they might have a job and don't have time to dig through Instagram like you and I do. And this happens to be our job. And it's just been a morphing. And so how many holster reviews do you want to do coming up? I think the answer is none.
Zero.
It's a valuable service. It's a valuable service, but how much more can I do? And then I created a meme show on Fridays, and that hit. I did that about 2 years ago. You've been on Spicy Friday, and it hit, and people like it. People respond everywhere I go, and literally everywhere somebody will scream the tagline from that show at me. And
what
it's
is it? What is it? All together now.
Go. Drama Llama go. And like at the USCCA Expo last year in Fort Worth, people were yelling that across 3 acres. So it's been great. The evolution is not complete. There's more coming.
I would have definitely gone for Get 'em, Greta. I think that's the better one. How dare you?
How dare you? Yeah, the Greta thing, I put that in there a few weeks ago as a spoof. And for people that haven't seen it, I show a meme that's offensive to some people, and then Greta, the homeschooled spokesperson for the world, goes, "How dare you?" And people love it. So yeah, I think we're moving towards Get 'em, Greta being the foundation of my life.
I vote that we change her name to the Environmental Forehead. What do you think?
How dare you?
you know I get him. When he doesn't have anything quick to say, I've got him. Goal accomplished. Hey, so what the hell does everybody get wrong in the gun industry?
I think it's not just guns. I think because like it or hate it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter people's opinions. The way it is, this is a male-dominated industry. Even the women that are in this industry usually tend to use masculine language, and they tend to have masculine ideologies and their values. So it just is what it is. And some guy's going to type down below, "But my wife she carries a Kinnick." Yeah, that's great. But the other 99% is male. And men are all about ranking. We will fight over our favorite sports teams to the death. I got into an argument, not an argument, but a passionate conversation last night about cast iron. And I've switched over to cast iron cooking. Did a cast iron cooking for lunch today. And somebody goes, some old timer out of nowhere, some boomers like, "Don't put soap in it." And so I was like, well, things have changed. Yes, okay. And a lot of things have come out recently. You can soap up your cast iron all you want, and that's fine. And they're like, no. We go back and forth. And finally, I'm like, cool, you wash without soap. And I think that trickles into, no. It has permeated the gun industry in that we are obsessed with our little brands. And as you know, and you're the one that taught me this, most people that go over to Gun X Review, they already have that gun, and they're not looking for information, they're looking for confirmation. And I've got old reviews that are 5, 6, 7 years old that are sitting out there, And people will be like, got this gun last week. I love it. Glad you love it too. And I'm like, yeah, you're on YouTube searching. I do the same thing. The point is, I think it's this tribalism, and that's just what humans do. It's what men do. And the ranking and this fierce battle of products over technique and training. And it's all about what should I carry and which gun's better than this. Oh, SIG, if you drop a SIG, it'll explode. Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. But can we just talk about maybe, like, I don't know, getting some training and getting better with whatever you choose? So I think it's the ranking that really messes it up.
So I've always said, and, I know we've talked for years. First of all, I was reminded of our conversation of I'm not going to get into it, but while you were just talking there, what qualifies you to give that information? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not, I'll let you decide on talking about that. But, one of the things that I think is really interesting is I genuinely believe, I call it trainer disease, and most firearms trainers have this inability to speak in paragraphs. They speak in circles. So like I've tried to have some fairly big name trainers, and this is over 10 years of experience. And what they tend to do is just they'll say, I do this because of blank, and then I do that because of blank, and then it just comes around full circle, and they do not know when to shut off, and it makes it incredibly boring and difficult to listen to. And I think that coupled with the lack of a sort of personal connection to training content has really, really made it tough to get people interested in that. What do you think?
I think that's interesting. I think that's certainly a big slice to the pie of what we're looking at right now and what is wrong in this industry. I think we get a lot right. I think right now there's a lot more right than there's ever been.
Oh,
but
sure.
yeah, I'm reminded of an Instagrammer the other day. Somebody said something back to tribalism. They said, well, this, and he responded, another gun reviewer, somebody in this space said, well, John Lovell would disagree. And I'm like, we're not talking about John Lovell. He's not cool dude. Love the guy. He's not a part of this. And it's all this, and in rhetorical studies, it's called, or in argumentation debate, it's called reasoning. It's a fallacy. It's called reasoning from authority. Well, I have this degree, so my opinion matters. Well, you know what? You may read something on the internet that's better. And it all comes down to authority. So I think it's this whole authority thing. Well, this name said this. Chris Costa said this. Well, Clint Smith said this. Well, rest in peace. I'm getting his name wrong. Where's his name? Where is it?
I don't know. I don't know who you're going with.
Camden, Tennessee. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm just going to leave you hanging on that one.
Thanks. Big help. Appreciate you. Great brother in Camden, Tennessee.
You're talking about Yeager.
Yeah, Yeager. Yeager says this, and John Lovell says this, but, Skinny Jeans himself does it this way, but Garand Thumb does it this way. So, and I'm guilty too.
Do you think this sort of borrowed authority is it human nature? Is it something that's built into the culture of the gun community? Can we shake it? What do you think?
I think it comes back to the male idea of ranking. Well, this guy said this, but Garand Thumb said this. And I think it comes back to that we are obsessed with being right. We are obsessed with arguing on the internet. Social media has done nothing good for us besides teach us that we have to argue our own point. Research says at a certain point in your life, you stop being changeable, moldable, or malleable in your ideologies and your beliefs, your values, and your morals. And at some point, you're just arguing this one rigid box of what you believe. And this is the way life is. And anything outside of that is wrong. One of the things I like about Clint Smith is he's old school. For people that don't know him, he's a Vietnam era American hero.
If you don't know who Clint Smith is, fix yourself.
Fix yourself. He went into battle, like actual battle, with the 1911 platform. And he really believes that two people invented the AR platform, God and Eugene Stoner. And he loves those platforms, but he's not rigid. And he says, I saw him say the other day on TFB TV, that any platform under certain conditions will fail. All platforms are going to fail. And if you can go into that, okay, now we can have a conversation, because your precious little gun, Skippy, is going to fail. Well, I did 50 rounds and it's never failed me yet. Okay, champ, go do 50,000 and then we'll have a conversation.
I'm reminded of this idea of infallible guns. I have seen every single manufacturer out there have blown up guns for one reason or another. Whether the timing is off, whether the spring rate is weird. So everybody has had a blown up gun, and there was a certain point, probably 10 to 15 years ago, in the gun community where that was like, oh my gosh, you can't believe this one gun blew up. It's almost like people attaching to the Olight thing. Oh, it blows, it kills people. Like, listen, lots and lots of people have had injuries due to fallible designs. These are designed, they're mechanical, and when you introduce variables into that equation, things go sideways fast. I think it's really interesting where people sort of forget that it's possible for anything to fail that is a mechanical device. It's 100% possible, and
It's not
they sort of
possible.
attach
It is.
to it.
Everything is going to fail. It's not even possible. It is coming. Last summer, James Reeves and I, TFB James Reeves, we went out to Thunder Ranch to do, and you know the story, we went out to Thunder Ranch to do a week-long, just a few of us, a week-long course and testing a new gun from a big manufacturer, like the big one of the big ones.
Yeah, and they have blue in their colors.
They brought 6 rifles straight off the line. All 6 failed. And that's pretty freaking cool. There's a lot of good in there because and there's video of me. I mean, I spent a lot of time practicing and training and clearing, and it was really, really valuable. I don't like dogma. Anybody that's dogmatic about anything, I'm going to take a pass. And guys get so dogmatic about their little brand that they can't stop and go, why are we even in this world? It's about protecting people and protecting ourselves and putting a stop to trouble in our society when the need, heaven forbid, ever arises. It's not about, oh my gosh, I'm loyal to Ruger. You can like it, but the point is, it's a tool, and to your point, it's gonna break. We practice bloody hand drills. If you're having to fire a rifle with one of your hands blown off, there is so much stuff that has gone sideways that, like, from the very beginning, you need to be practicing with that gun breaking. Clint says use your pistol to fight your way to your rifle. You're on your rifle, you better be practicing jams, and you better be practicing slick hand drills, low light drills, practicing in the dark, closing your eyes, and loading, reloading from every position possible. It's not about loyalty to one brand.
It's really interesting how enlightening training can be. Whether you're doing live fire or I don't know if you have any experience with this. This will be new territory for us. Have you ever shot with any sort of simunition UTM type stuff, like force on force training? Have you done any of that?
You know me, when I go to shows and go to events and things that we do, I'm having fun. You one time called it that Johnny BS that I do because you were trying to do an interview at the NRA, and I was standing in the aisle with a whole bunch of brothers, and I pretty much ruined the audio because I was being myself. So the short answer is no, I've not done any sim training, but I've stood next to a whole lot of it while talking and having fun. I've done a lot of paintball though, and I think that is an entry drug. I think that's a gateway drug. I did a lot of paintball over the years.
Well, that absolutely. First of all,
very
absolutely.
low level, very low level, very low level.
I think the next step forward is what some folks would call airsoft, others would call milsim. And that, I believe, is a larger gateway drug into actual training, because when you have projectiles coming at your face at a high rate of speed, your brain does things that you do not get to control. Your brain just reacts. And I think it's one of the most valuable things that somebody can do when it comes to training. Besides getting out there and malfunction training, absolutely. But getting shot at with things that actually hurt, that's not going to kill you or likely to not kill you, that is a really eye-opening experience. I think you and I need to go. I've got a buddy outside of Indianapolis that has a shoot house. I think we need to go and just get thrown to the wolves and jump in with some SWAT guys and get shot at a lot. What do you think?
I am in on that. You and I are very large targets, and to your point of my point, I mentioned gateway drug, but your point that milsim does have some value. Garand Thumb, Mike, he says regularly he loves it. He loves that airsoft is so big right now because it is a gateway drug to people learning these platforms and maybe protecting themselves and their loved ones.
I also noticed, if you used to say like, oh, that's an airsoft quality product, even 5 years ago, in like recent history, that was indicating that it was subpar. And a lot of that stuff has come a long way.
Yeah,
Where
they've merged.
Yeah, exactly. They've converged in this point of everybody wants good gear, and it's no longer this is for airsoft, this is for real life. It's how much money do you want to pay for good gear, which is kind of awesome.
It is. And like Opie and the Smokies, he's an Instagrammer. He's just right down the road in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Opie he uses a lot of airsoft gear, and it's interesting watching him. A lot of guys do. I think it's interesting how, and I think it started with companies that were trying to sell to both markets, because you can't be on Amazon if you're selling real stuff. And so I think the whole Amazon, maybe a little bit of a Streisand effect. Amazon tries not to sell this, so these folks come in and end up selling their stuff to that crowd under a different name.
We're going to take a hard turn here. What was the most difficult thing for you across? How many years have you been doing this now?
7.
7 years. Okay, so TGC this month is 8 years old. You're coming up on 7. We've been at this a while. What is the number one most difficult challenge that you've had to overcome in that 7 years?
It's been a ride. And what's interesting for me, this is career number 3 for me. And you had a hand to play in welcoming me into the industry. And it's been really, really good, like really good. I mean, I traveled last year, the last 15 weeks of last year, I did 11 road trips in 15 weeks. And wow, it's been really, really good. Like there's so much good. I think one of the challenges for me is I have stuff that is not evergreen. And what that means for the layperson, a guy like Garand Thumb can produce content and people will go back and watch it 6 years later. So you have this nice trajectory and a ramp of success, whereas my stuff is only green for about 48 hours. And so my growth has been super slow. And at least once a week, somebody tells me, and people in the industry, John, you've said it. I mean, people that do this for a living tell me how criminally underrated my product is and criminally underwatched. And that's probably a big one because I know I produce good content. I know it looks good, sounds good. I know it's funny. And financially things are well. I'm making money at it too. Like it's been a good ride. I'm blessed. I am more blessed than some moron in Appalachia should be. But I think
how do we quantify that?
Running water. Let's start with that.
I got water. That's good.
Yeah, there's been really good seasons and there's been slow seasons. I went a year with zero growth and still ground through it. Money was still fine, but to watch, it's tough, and it's tough up here. But I love it, and I'm happy that I'm still in the game. How about you? I'm gonna turn the tables on you. What's been the tough one for you? Because you've been at this a long time, and even before TGC, you were in the game. So 10 years on, what's been the worst?
Me? Like I've 100% been my own biggest challenge, overcoming my own inadequacies, my inability to deal with said inadequacies, and perceived and actual. Those are two very different things sometimes. That has been the thing that has made my career challenging for myself, because I came in with TGC, it was so different. And now, 8 years on, people have seen it. So to continue evolving and growing and trying to create interesting versions of content around gun stuff and finding new ways to present things new angles and new ways to talk shit. I mean, that's a challenge in and of itself. You know, I stopped. I'll give some context, and I think you'll appreciate this. So my old channel was something that kind of held me back. I had gotten into a place where I warn guys about now, where I was beholden to manufacturers. I wanted to please them. I wanted to give positive reviews, and I had slipped into this mentality where like I've got to do good so they like me. And now it is 180 from that, and I think people appreciate it a lot more. So fighting through that, knowing that the negativity when it's deserved, and you know, the constant challenge to try and keep up with guys that started, you know, call it six effing months ago and now have more subscribers than I do. That's very difficult to stomach. But we often have very different products. You and I are more similar than a review channel and our channels. You know, the TGC News, not evergreen. We still get some people watching old stuff, but it's very clearly old stuff, and it doesn't necessarily apply, much like your culture talk doesn't necessarily apply. I would argue that yours is less evergreen simply because the news cycle is faster when you're talking about broader topics, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, you know, we're on the borderline of talking YouTube shop, which I'm sure people find truly
No,
fascinating.
I'll be honest with you. People don't hate it. They don't hate it.
Really? Well, I think, you know, to make this a 10,000 foot view, I think it's not about ego. Oh, this person has more subscribers than this person. The subscriber count and the view count, that opens up doors to be able to do more, and it's more money, and it's you're looking at growth in your business. And guys, you know, there's going to be, you know, guys, trolls that are saying, well, wow, you're not making money. The reason anyone gets up and goes to work in the morning is to feed their families and to do better. And so there's a lot packed into the idea of growth. Now, let me throw this at you.
Sure.
Ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, for me, there's a level of validation, whether it's the right way to think about it or not. When you see growth and when you see that sort of upward trend, it's validating to what you're spending your time working on. And that's an emotional connection.
Mm-hmm. Everything we do is about one thing, and that's clicks. Nothing else. Nothing but clicks. And people say, well, what about sales? And sales are nothing but clicks. Now, let me throw this at you. I believe in most complicated situations, I believe in the Swiss cheese theory. If you look at something, how do you understand this? You lay a piece of Swiss cheese over it, there's still holes. So you put another piece of Swiss cheese over it, there's still holes. Like, why did Hitler invade Russia? Well, there's not one reason. It's not because he failed art school. There's going to be a layering of reasons across it. And that's, you know, they say, how do we solve mental health crisis? Okay, you better start getting lots of Swiss cheeses out there, Swiss cheese slices. I'm going to throw this at you. You mentioned being beholden to manufacturers. I'm telling you, the reason I started doing YouTube was to get free crap in the mail. That is the reason. 100%.
Goal accomplished.
I'm serious. And I remember one time I had like 38 packages come in like 10 days. And at this point, I don't even put my address out there anymore. I'm so over it. However, it's very attractive. There is nothing better in this world. Maybe stolen beer. I don't know. There's nothing better in this world than a free gun.
Ooh.
And it's pretty close. Pretty close. I can name some other things. We'll have to do a episode after dark. And I think it's a big deal. Or free stuff, a free pistol, free holster, free ammo. And I think for young YouTubers, and there's a lot of them, not chronological in age, but young in their careers, the allure to be beholden to companies because of the benefits that companies can give you, that is one Swiss cheese slice or one slice to the pie of understanding what is wrong in our industry today. It's the allure of free guns or the power, the reward power that a company can offer. What do you think?
I think it's, like you said, it's very complicated. You know, there's a lot of guys that are flash in the pan, and they will come wreak havoc, grow very fast, and like fireworks explode out of existence. And I've seen that more than once. I distinctly remember a single conversation you and I had probably 5 years ago about a specific creator that we were like, yeah, this guy's good. And I said, he's got 3 months in him, something like that. And like clockwork, he shut down in about 3 months because it's more complicated than just free guns. Because most of us understand, and I think you'll agree with this. With a free gun are attachments. It comes with an invisible box full of intangibles, such as responsibility, commitment to the product, to releasing a video, if that was an agreed upon thing, expectations. Kind of encompasses all of that. I love getting to play with the newest and coolest thing. That's like something that makes me tick. I love the new and cool, but holy shit, does it come with a lot of pressure to deliver. And oftentimes, like, I have pissed off more than one company. I mean, people have come to expect from me personally that I'm going to dunk on them in some way. It's just a matter of how. And I always say, well, if your product's good enough, it shouldn't worry you. What do you think?
I think it's a part of what's going on in this industry. It's marketing. The bottom line is you have armies of companies with marketing departments and marketing budget, and new media is a necessary part of their marketing plan, has to be. So now they've got to deal with content creators. And I've done this. I work for a couple different companies that use content creators for marketing and other little things that I do. And content creators as a whole are super squirrely and really independent. You can't tell them what to do. You can't get them to answer the phone on time. You can't get them to send an email. They are odd. But one thing they will do is accept stuff. And that's when I use reward power, whether it's cash or gear or trips. And I think it does affect the industry. I think really it affects it with maybe the people that are younger in their careers, the established. We've mentioned Garand Thumb multiple times now. You're not going to wave a gun at Garand Thumb and change his opinion at all. But there are, for every Garand Thumb, I will say there's 150 that are easily influenced in however the marketing dollars push it. And I think marketing dollars do affect the industry. They've blessed my life. Like, I am proud, but like you, everything that I advertise, I do it right up front. This is an advertisement. I was paid to do this. Always. And so that has really, for me, and I know for you, that matters. But a lot of videos on YouTube, you'll have no idea that they were paid for their opinion. And that's a tough thing. It's part of the industry.
I pull a lot of influence from outside, the gun industry, because I find most gun content to be horrendously boring. Most of it is horrendously boring to me. And I think, the way GunTubers as a whole behave is almost behind the times, because if you look outside of our industry, there is very clear delineation when something has been paid for. It's hashtag ad, hashtag promotion. Hey, they paid us. They'll come out right at the top of the video. Like you and I try to make it as clear as possible. This is a promotion. Here's our sponsor, using the correct language. Why do you think the gun industry has not moved into that space? I mean, there's been times when certain colleagues of ours have been caught up in drama with, this was bought and paid for and things of that nature. Why haven't we accepted this?
My opinion, and this is only one slice of that pie, I think because our industry is really odd, really, really odd, in that you've got a product that is manufactured by engineers and machinists, gunsmiths, hands-on wrench turning dudes. But then guys will move from that. Hey, now because I want to sell my gun, now I'm in charge of marketing that gun. You've dealt with it a bazillion times. Somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to promote my product. And we're like, okay. And they'll send you a script that is nuts, bolts, and tolerances and ballistic data and engineers. And so I think it's an interesting industry in that most of the marketing guys and gals do not have a marketing background. And most
Very
of
true.
the advertising folks do not have. And a bazillion people, and I get it, I understand this completely, but a bazillion followers, and yours too, will hit you up. Hey, I love guns. How do I make money from guns? I want to get into the industry. I'll do anything. And so they'll end up packing t-shirts for some company in their swag shop, and then work their way up, and eventually they'll be at the trade show booths handing guns to the public, and then eventually they're working in marketing. So I think part of this problem is that we don't have people that are professionals in advertising and marketing. And to your other point, I think it's interesting how not all, but a lot of other spaces and industries, man, when you watch their stuff, it's like, hey, such and such a company sent me this electric skateboard and I'm going to try it out. We'll see. But they'll tell you right up front. Whereas our guys are, just got my hands on this. It's totally reliable. Blah, 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 blah. It's amazing. You should buy one.
Edit, edit, edit. I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I've always had the belief that our industry is 5 to 10 years behind when it comes to marketing and content creation. And I still believe that's 100% correct. We're approaching a new era, and I would argue that Grand Thumb and his cohorts spearheaded it, because what we're seeing now is really fascinating. This push, not just for information, but entertainment. And we did see that with Demolition Ranch and Kentucky Dinosaur, and some of these other guys. We've seen these pro entertainment channels, right?
Kentucky Dinosaur.
You like that? Kentucky Dinosaur?
That's funny. It's funny. We're talking about Kentucky ballistics, to be clear, but Kentucky Dinosaur.
Just like Environmental Forehead, he is henceforth Kentucky Dinosaur.
How dare you?
How dare you? So we've seen this sort of transition where Grand Thumb and Administrative Results and 1911 Syndicate, their focus is pushing towards cinematography and entertainment and almost sort of saga-like, this drama and these skits. And I find it effing fascinating to watch it happening from, the news guy standpoint, where I can't film cinematic news. It doesn't exist. What do you think? Do you see that? Am I full of shit? Is there another trend at play?
Well, there's the one big trend at play. There's several things that humans have to have. And I'm not talking about the hierarchy of needs of starting with oxygen and water. Stop that crap. This is not the 4th grade. Let's at least get to 5th grade, and which I know is going to be hard for people from Mississippi.
I like cheese.
There's several things that humans crave. We have to have human interaction. We have to have skin-on-skin contact. We have to have connection. But the paramount thing that humans have to have and that we crave and that we need is narrative. Every magazine, every movie, every story, every TV commercial is the telling of a story. Even a 30-second commercial is going to be a journey from point A to point B. That's the reason that the gun content is moving towards skits, narratives, and dramas, is because you're looking. I mean, even remember Orange County Shoppers. It was not about making motorcycles. It was about how angry Paul Sr. is at Paul Jr. Pawn Stars, hugely successful. It was not about products. It was about, this was my grandpappy's old guitar, and it would tell a little narrative. And so gun companies are finally catching up with that. So you're gonna have some guy say, hey, I am headed on a hog hunt. I don't have the tool that I need on a hog hunt. What should I get? And then bing, here's the right 300 blackout. So it's not about this product is cool and goes boom. It's now I'm telling a story with this product. And yeah, we're finally catching up, maybe 5 years later.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
I didn't make that up, John. This is basic Campbellian theory 101.
Well, I don't assume you'll make it up without making a joke out of it, because that's who you are as a person. If it's made up, I'll know. But I think the interesting thing is that we've been talking with Sean Heron, who you guys know from We Like Shooting podcast and Dangerous Freedom, and a few other guys, and we've all sort of had this mentality, individually but collectively at the same time, of holy crap, we've been doing this a while, we need to get better at storytelling. And for me personally, storytelling is much more complex than an A to B, because in order to apply it to a product, you have to come at it from a different way. And this is what separates some of the huge channels like Admin and like Grand Thumb. The thing that separates them is not the cinematography. That lifts the story, but their ability to come up with a skit around a given concept, around a product, and make it into something entertaining is fascinating to me, because storytelling is so much more complex than that. And I'm literally speaking with somebody in our industry that is an expert at the topic. What do you think is the thing that will take a product review from good to wow in terms of storytelling?
Well, I think to your point, it's not cinematography. Robert Rodriguez made a movie for $7,000 in Mexico, and it got picked
What movie
up.
was
And
that?
they made it was El Mariachi, and it's
Okay.
done in Spanish. That's where the Once Upon a Time in Mexico and that whole Antonio Banderas carrying the guitar case with the guns in it, that all came from that $7,000 movie. But he told a story, and it was fantastic. It was engrossing and engaging. So what's interesting is that your question, I think, is interesting. You're like, hey, what's going to move reviews forward? That I think we're still stuck in this industry, and this space is about reviews. And I think that's really interesting. I don't know if that's good, bad, weird. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think we are so engrossed in this is now a review. I'm in a few other spaces, and as are you. Like, when you get over into the camera world, a lot of times it's not about reviews. It's about, here's what I can do with this tool. This tool's great, but I'm going to show you what I can do with it. And I watch a lot of camera reviews, and you're moving over into another space with your battle wagon. And I watched your one yesterday where you're just soundproofing the vehicle. And for me, that was really interesting, just to see the inside of a panel van door. And so I think it's interesting, and I think we're both showing our age in this industry, not our age in chronological, but our age in this industry, to go, how are reviews going to change? Maybe the answer is we don't do reviews. Maybe we do something completely different. I think a 22-year-old could figure that out. Maybe it's not going to be us.
I've seen a lot of people try to do something different, myself included, and fail spectacularly or less. And I don't know what it's the difficult question. What's next, right? That's very, very difficult to answer. But I've seen a lot of I want to go hunting, I want to go training, and then I'm going to film it. And it often ends poorly. And I point to storytelling failures and relatability thereof as the sort of linchpin in all of that crumbling down. Like, the thing that causes the problem is the fact that the story is not told correctly. And I think it's probably because we approach it from the perspective that we know, reviews, instead of approaching it from the perspective of, I'm making a film, or I'm making a short, or things of that nature. Do you think there is something to be had for the future of gun tubers and the gun content creators, however therefore classified? Do you think there is something that people could latch onto now that could make us all better in 5 years?
When you go to a fancy any restaurant, there's a restaurant called Lewis Barbecue in Charleston, South Carolina. They have a fantastic product, but also what's great about their product is their presentation. They'll take a big piece of butcher paper, and y'all have seen these. They'll lay the butcher paper down, then all the food is just plopped onto that, and it's an experience. Like, it really, really is cool. No one goes to Lewis Barbecue for the butcher paper. No one goes there for the cool t-shirts and the decor. Nobody does. They go there for the product. And I think, to your point about storytelling and the narrative, I think the cinematography and the lights and the fact that we have to have excellent sound, excellent editing. The age of hands, the camera top down on hands, watching somebody fumble with a gun, those are over. And that day is done. So just like no one goes over to Lewis Barbecue for the paper plate, the sound, the lighting, the editing, the story, and all that stuff is just a tool, the plate that you're handing the consumer information, usually confirmation. They're looking for confirmation, but what they're really looking for is narrative. So I think, to your question about how does this industry level up, is we use the technology and we use this because our brains are broken. You know this. Our brains have switched to where we have to have something switch in editing every 3 seconds. But you use that as a tool to go, hey, maybe you could protect your family better if there's a bump in the night, and I'm going to bring this to you. You're not coming for the editing and the light. You're coming for information, and maybe we'll use the narrative as a tool to bring that to people. If you unmute yourself, we can hear you.
Pro status. I find that I was over here coughing and hacking. I find it really interesting that we sort of haven't found that 100% answer yet. And I think the closest thing to it is the next generation of, short attention spans really jumping into our industry. I've seen a lot of really fast-paced content come out over the last year in particular. Obviously, COVID, turned that dial up to 1,000, but I think it's really interesting watching old men try and apply TikTok tactics to their gun content. It's really, really weird. It's weird as all hell to watch an old man do a TikTok. I don't know what we're
You're
looking
talking
at
about
next.
Jerry Mitchell-esque, to be clear, and
Not intentionally.
well, you are, and I mean, there's nobody in this industry is going to disrespect that guy. Like that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, it is weird. I appreciate how the Jerry Mitchell-esque of this world have tried to stay with the times, and he's done very well in growing an audience through new media. But to your point, yeah, it's weird. And I'd say even at our age, we're borderline getting weird and trying to keep up. There's a whole other, in this whole broken brain thing, there's a whole other side of this, in that some people are moving towards long form, not in other spaces. The best one, I think, is that guy in Australia that just goes out, primitive technology. He doesn't talk. He does one video a month. I've got chills just thinking about how good he is. He goes out and does caveman stuff with sticks and mud, and it is so engrossing, but he's still telling a story, and there's still a narrative there without words. And I think regardless, whether it's going to be this long form, because I watch a boat builder in Rhode Island, this old man who just slowly builds boats. He's building the boat from Jaws right now, the Orca. It's incredible. And wow. Whether it's short form TikTok or long form, more ASMR kind of stuff, both are still pushing the narrative. And I don't think that this isn't me. This is human history. We want the narratives.
What's really fascinating? I found through my exploration of the van stuff and overlanding and things that are adjacent, I found a channel called, I believe it's Overland X, and they're based out of Montana. And what their premise is that they go on what they call expeditions. The most recent one to air was they call it the Nordic series, and they've got Toyota and tire companies and all these big names sponsoring them. And their channel's not amazing. The views are not crazy big, which really interesting, because usually that's the key. Oh, they have a huge audience. Okay, of course. Their storytelling and cinematography is on another planet. When you look at what they're actually doing, you boil it down. They're driving around in the dirt. That's it. They camp out of the back of their vehicles. They're living the life of a hobo, which is generally what overlanding is. But they've found a way to make it bigger than just driving around and sleeping in the dirt, right? They've created this storytelling around it in long form, and that's what, when you mention that, that's the thing that I personally struggle with, and I know you're very good at. So I'd be very curious to see you try long form. Have you considered doing any long form? Because most of your stuff is under 15 minutes, under 10 minutes, not crazy long. Have you considered some variation of a longer piece of content?
I have. I think it would have to be on a different channel because, you stay in this industry. You watch it really closely that you can't on a short form channel all of a sudden start doing 45-minute videos.
Can't do it.
Because no one will click. And this industry is about nothing but clicks, nothing. And I think so, but I think it would have to be on a different channel. I bought a vlog camera not that long ago to
Ooh, which one?
Do Sony A7C.
Oh, you went with the A7C.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with
okay.
Sony now. Yeah. And so I did that to do some vlogging, and I was going to do some stuff more Appalachian, but I've got 3 jobs, and this is only one of them. And I literally, something's going to come to a head eventually, and it's too much. And I literally don't have time to do anything. I know everybody's like, I'm so busy. Johnny can't vlog because of the law. I think there's a challenge there. I do think it does come back to the narrative hard, and I think there's a lot of value there for our industry. There's a channel called Matt's Off-Road Recovery. All he does is he goes up, anybody that goes 4x4 and 4-wheeling out in the sand in the desert in Utah, they get stuck. Matt goes up with a wrecker and gets them. And so every episode is so much fun because you're getting to see characters, you get to see fun, you're getting to see people do fun things. And that's my other point, is it's another slice to this pie. Your overlanding channel, guys are sitting in their boxer shorts at their house after the kids go to bed because they got to get up and go to work in the morning, and they're watching other people have adventures. And that's really what YouTube does. It doesn't just tell a narrative. The other slice to it is that, and I think we need to be more mindful of that, is that we get to show guys cool guns and they get to watch us do stuff that they don't have a chance to do because they're working, and they just, different opportunities. And I think the narrative, and hey, I'm going on a hog hunt at nighttime, watch this. It's not just craving that story. It's also guys and a few gals getting to see guys do things like overlanding or whatever it is in our era, because most of us aren't getting to do crazy stuff like Garand Thumb does.
So I spent about 5 hours in a car with a new friend of mine named Peter Milan. And Peter is from South Africa. He has a channel called Impact Shooting.
G'day, mate.
Awesome guy. Very funny. Very beat the shit out of that horse, Johnny. I love getting to know interesting people. And one of the conversations we got into with him was, what's next? That's kind of where it always leads. What do you got coming up? And he had told me that he had at some point considered moving to the States. And I cautioned him. I said, look, if you come here, you lose physically everything that makes South Africa different. You do not have the ability to go shoot a monkey. That's not a thing in the US. So I said, look, this is something you need to consider. Is this makes you different and helps you tell a different story than what we experience here. And to sort of try and align that with your point, I think finding those interesting storylines is challenging. And when you have the advantage of something like that, like going to another country or doing something that people don't get to do very often, that gives you a slight advantage and more interesting storytelling. So a friend
of mine says,
go ahead.
In your difference lies your destiny. I don't know if I believe in, cosmic destiny, but it's an interesting statement that to your point, what makes your channel different? Well, I get to shoot monkeys. How about that? And I think that's important for this industry in this space, is to do something more than just another Bleakin review of a black AR, a guy shooting with a tripod. And I've done plenty of those, so have you. And we've got to move beyond that and find a niche that's different than anything else in the industry. And I think that's important. And I think the industry is desperate for different.
So your difference is the shift to culture and expanding the concept of what your channel is. What do you like? Where does that stop? Are you going to take over for Tucker Carlson? Is that the sort of end goal where you're talking about, right-wing politics and things like where are you headed?
I have to do things that interest me. And guns have always held my interest, and so have politics. It really has. I remember coming home from high school. This is 90, 91, coming home 30-something years ago, coming home from high school, raising the hatchback on my old Toyota and playing basketball every afternoon about 2:15, and I would catch the last 45 minutes of Rush Limbaugh. And 100% on my own. And I did that my whole senior year of high school. So this stuff does get my attention. What's next? I have no idea, but it's going to be, things are going to change, and because my interests change and the things that I think are funny changes. I've got two things in life that I'm pursuing. One is peace. If it's not peaceful, I don't do it. You don't get to go out to lunch with me. You don't go out to dinner with me. If I don't want to hang out with you, I don't go. And like even when we were in Maryland, like we chose our rooms, Jack and Jill rooms, so we could
I forgot you and I were attached.
We were attached, and it's peaceful. But the other thing for me is fun. So, where am I headed? I don't know. It better be fun. I have a relationship with the Warrior Poet Network, and we've talked about expanding what I do over there and having a second or a third show on their network.
Wow.
We'll see. It better be fun. And so I don't know what's next. Currently, I'm in the meme season of my life. So how about you, John? What's next?
What's next is me wrapping up this podcast. Be sure to check out our sponsors, blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Don't you poo-poo my segue. Don't you poo-poo my segue. It was dynamite. Dude, by the way, use the code TGC for at least 10% off when you buy Blackout Coffee, and use the same code TGC over vertex.com to get yourself a discount on their bags and apparel. Now, one of the things I started doing with the TGC videos that has sort of lit people on fire, something that you and I both now do, which is cutting the video hard. And I honestly think it's one of the best things to hit gun videos. I really do. I genuinely believe that when